This is definitely the most violent contestant in Robot Wars. All robots that have fought against him ended up being torn into pieces. He has such an arrogant, destructive ability. To be honest, even Tombstone was not so arrogant. I think Riptide is the robot with the strongest offensive ability in the past 2 seasons. Their winning rate in the 7th season was 86%, and their KO rate was also 86%. This means that Riptide will never let the opponent live to accept the game. As long as they win, they will definitely crush the opponent. Then some people say that you can only bully weak opponents. But what does that really mean? Next, let's take a look at which opponents Torrent defeated in the regular matches of Season 7. First up is Mace, whose strength is on par with Torrent. Both are formidable newcomers, but unexpectedly, Mace was KO'd right at the start. Mace hesitated, while Torrent landed a direct hit on his side. At that moment, Mace was already flipped over and lost his fighting ability before the referee even started the countdown. Torrent then delivered another fatal blow. There was nothing that could be done you didn't concede. Since the battle wasn't over, the attacks naturally wouldn't stop. The second opponent, Mad Cat, is definitely not weak. The start of this match also gave Torrent quite a shock, but after Mad Cat's front armor was knocked off, the difference between the two main weapons became immediately apparent when they clashed head-on. In no time, Mad Cat was battered, badly damaged, lost the wheel, and even caught fire inside the chassis. In the end, it was eliminated and lost the match. The first 2 opponents had already been smashed to pieces, so next up was the third opponent, Tiger Claw. Honestly, I thought I'd already seen the ending with Tiger Claw's defeat, but I didn't expect Tiger Claw to end up as just a pile of parts. In this match, Tiger Claw's spinning attacks were mostly for show. After being rammed by Torrent several times, as its spinning slowed, Torrent gradually lifted it, tearing it apart and destroying it. Like that? Oh god. In the end, it was already completely wrecked, but Torrent still wasn't done playing and kept on ravaging and pummeling it. This made the whole team extremely angry. Couldn't they see we were already in this state? Their confusion over why the opponent kept attacking didn't make Torrent stop. Instead, it continued to completely turn Tiger Claw into a pile of scrap metal. There was nothing they could do after all. As long as you can still spin, it doesn't count as a win unless you're totally immobilized. But from the perspective of the Horner team, it must have felt awful too. Was it really necessary to go this far? You guys are just too violent. After the match, the Firefield team even told the referees that there was way too much excessive damage. Well, that's just the Blitz team style. They absolutely never give their opponents a chance to catch their breath, insisting on beating them until they're completely unable to fight back. But their definition of unable to fight back is total destruction. Once you're in the battle box, it's all about strength. The best way to get revenge is to wait for the next season, bring out a robot even more brutal than Torrent, and then tear Torrent apart. The fourth opponent, Black Dragon, was once a powerhouse who defeated Tombstone, but unfortunately, when facing Torrent, they also stood no chance at all. They didn't even have a chance to fight back, and ended up badly damaged. It has to be said, Torrent's main weapon is just incredibly powerful. Generally, competitors can't withstand 4 decisive matches in the regular season, and all of them were KOs. Some people ask, if it's so strong, why wasn't it the champion in Season 7? Could there be someone even better? Next, let's go straight through all the matches of the Season 7 BattleBots playoffs. This season, only 4 robots enter the playoffs with undefeated records. They are Huge, Bull Minotaur, Quantum, and Torrent. Huge relies too much on its chassis. Quantum depends on its biting power. Although it's a strong contender, it's unfortunately too reckless. Only Bull Minotaur is truly impressive, with very strong capabilities. Among the top 3, Bull Minotaur is first, Torrent second. Last season's champion, Tantrum, didn't perform well this time, with only 1 win and 3 losses, even losing to its junior teammate, Glitch. As a foreign champion, Tantrum is ranked 26th, and in the first round of the playoffs, it faces the 7th ranked Pro Game. What a coincidence, Pro Game is also a champion, so 2 champions are meeting in the very first round, which is quite rare. Let's see who ends up in a more awkward position. The 32-16 elimination tournament is divided into 4 regions. First, let's look at the battles in the 2nd and 3rd regions. In the first match, the 3rd ranked Witch Doctor faces the 30th ranked Jackpot. Judging by appearance, Jackpot's auxiliary weapon looks more powerful, but in terms of destructive capability, Jackpot isn't even half as strong as Witch Doctor during the first impact at the start. It undoubtedly has the upper hand. Soon after, another powerful strike destroyed the opponent. Jackpot, whose weapon is heavily reliant on offense, becomes a sitting duck once its main weapon stops spinning. This blow did not make Jackpot surrender. Even though its chassis was already damaged, it still tried to flip over and keep fighting, hoping its opponent might malfunction. But Witch Doctor's assault was too fierce, and the gap in strength was too great, there was nothing it could do. After being launched into the air, another round of brutal attacks from behind left Jackpot unable to fight, but the match wasn't over. The Jackpot team showed no intention of surrendering, so Witch Doctor kept attacking. Destroying Jackpot's chassis ranking in the top 32 is no joke. As long as Witch Doctor didn't malfunction, Jackpot had no ability to fight back. Next up is Lucky versus Hypershock. Although Lucky is a flipper bot, it still hasn't shown its true strength so far. At the start, several small flips were perfectly countered by Hypershock, which left Lucky's flipper badly damaged. But that didn't matter, because the opponent would make mistakes on their own. Afterwards, the heavyweight bot was easily flipped over. This scene really feels both familiar and deja vu. It could only right itself by ramming into the wall, but fortunately, it managed to self-right in the end. Then, in a fit of anger, it charged at Lucky and launched a fierce attack. Hypershock's weapon completely bent and destroyed Lucky's flipper. Even if Lucky was given a chance to attack, it had already lost its offensive capability. Better luck next time, come back stronger. Next up is Claw Viper vs Hypershock. Claw Viper uses its rear single-plate defense mode, relying on its sturdy back to withstand the opponent's attacks. Claw Viper has used this move many times. It's the secret weapon they've developed after so many matches. Unfortunately, Claw Viper overlooked one issue. Its side panels are too fragile. At the start, the defense was solid and limited Hypershock's offense, but under repeated impacts, the main course was his own chassis. Hypershock hadn't even launched an attack yet, but all 4 of Claw Viper's wheels were loose, and its speed slowed. When Hypershock counterattacked, aside from its tough rear, Claw Viper had little defense. This episode was fatal, but Claw Viper still held on. However, an unexpected situation happened soon after. I didn't expect this ending. At first, the director gained an advantage using the back of his head, then tried to counterattack and went head-to-head with Bloodluck, but got seriously injured. He then calmed down, dragged his battered body, and still defeated his opponent. Next, second-ranked Torrent faces third-ranked Crusher. In round 1, Torrent won all 4 matches, and almost all defeated opponents were the same type, showing how terrifying the power of its main weapon is. At the start, Crusher was struck by one of Torrent's front forks and its hammer, but the attack didn't do much damage. Then, Torrent delivered a fatal blow to Crusher, almost like kicking a ball away. Crusher's hammer was quite effective, but in front of Torrent, Crusher was just a moving metal box. With every collision, Crusher suffered heavy damage. In the end, Crusher was knocked into a corner and finished off by the arena's big hammer, losing the match. Torrent's air injection system is simply a nightmare for its opponents. Looking forward to Torrent's next match against Slam. This season, Torrent hasn't faced any of the old-school powerhouses yet, so it's uncertain how far Torrent can get the Torrent team to express their dissatisfaction. Even when Crusher was completely immobilized at the end, Torrent's attacks didn't stop, which clearly showed some temper. After the match, Torrent's captain Ethan said it was because of Adam's stubbornness. That's why I didn't choose to stop, and no one could stop us from attacking. This statement made Adam feel disrespected, so he chose not to shake hands at the end. Why did Ethan say Adam was stubborn? Before the match, all robots in Metatia have to be weighed, and the weight must not exceed 250 pounds. Adam from the Crusher team believed that Torrent made some small modifications after the weigh-in, which could be considered cheating. At the request of the fans and the team, Torrent ended up being weighed 3 times in total, and each time there was no problem. The processor speed also met the requirements, but this still left the Torrent team feeling upset. You could have come over and asked us what we changed, but don't just accuse us of cheating outright. After the match, Ethan said those things because he felt you were being too stubborn, and that's why we didn't plan to hold back. This is the stage where strength speaks for itself if neither side broke the rules. Then what else is there to say? Now, let's move on to the next few matches. Mad Cat defeated Claw Viper. I have to mention Claw Viper was the most agile robot in the competition. Its speed let it quickly change direction and charge, almost making me dizzy watching. But it lacked damage from its main weapon, and in the end, Mad Cat took it out in one go. What Mad Cat wants to say is, why bother with flashy moves? Gigabyte defeated Scorpios. Now, Gigabyte is almost in its perfect state. Its 2 large tires are sturdy and tough, and the protection on both sides of the chassis is worth mentioning. Once the battle starts, it just relentlessly pounds its opponent from top to bottom. Copperhead defeated Rotator. Up next is a heavyweight showdown among heavyweight. Ranked 7th is the Professional Gamer, up against the 6th ranked Tantrum. Don't be fooled by their relatively low rankings, both of them are champions. In the first round, the Gamer had 3 wins and 1 loss, losing to Pong due to a mistake, while Tantrum had 1 win and 3 losses, losing to Minotaur, Glitch, and Whiplash. As the defending champion, that record is quite dismal. When facing strong opponents of different types, Tantrum had no advantage, so it's unlikely this season we'll see the same glory as before. At the start, both sides tangled up, but because the wedge was too long, they couldn't get a proper collision. However, Tantrum's weapon can slide, so it could still strike the opponent's front forks. Moreover, Tantrum's drive power is stronger, making the fight passive. At this point, Tantrum made a mistake attacking, and his opponent seized the chance to counterattack. Although the impact force in this match wasn't as strong as Tantrum's, the opponent was often pinned in the corner. However, its front wedge could limit Hou Yi's attacks, while S front forks were fragile. Once the forks loosened, this bot could attack. At the start, both sides were evenly matched, with Tantrum holding the advantage, but after both front forks were knocked off by Zhu Yuanzhang, the situation instantly reversed. This is Tantrum's biggest weakness, just like in the previous championship match. The same thing happened. The fighter Tantrum is still the same, and as the defending champion, it was eliminated in the very first round. It seems Tantrum wasn't fully prepared this season. The 2nd and 3rd divisions both have championship potential, with 3 strong contenders, Torrent, Pure Game, and Witch Doctor. On the other hand, I think the battles in the 1st and 4th divisions will be even more intense. Next, the 4th-seeded Hydra faces off against the 2nd-seeded Death Row in 4 seconds. For this match, I want to see if Hydra can break its own record again. Although Death Row isn't as easy to flip as the forklift, its underside still has clearance. To be honest, I'm not optimistic about Pong. Although its design is novel and unique, adjustments and improvements in the following matches, and their combat effectiveness increased significantly. Although Black Dragon is an old-school powerhouse and has even defeated Tombstone before, Pong showed no fear at all. Ride broke down and could not move flexibly to meet the collision of the Black Dragon. It seems that Prony can't maintain stability alone under the fierce collision. Once he loses advantage, the injector is too small, so the 2 front forks are crucial. Unfortunately, the forks are prone to loosening, exposing weaknesses. Next is a match between top-ranked Minotaur and 3rd-ranked Fusion. Next up is a match between the 5th-ranked Quantum and the 284th 4th generation Little Frog. Quantum has 4 wins. After 16 intense matches, the top 16 of the 7th season of A Course Robots have been determined. The top 4 Bull Minotaur, Torrent, Hydra, and all the Reese have all advanced smoothly, and coincidentally, these 4 robots are all in different divisions. First, let's look at the first match of the round of 16, Bull Minotaur vs Malice. Malice is a very compact robot with an armored design, somewhat similar to Tombstone, except for a different main weapon. Back in the day, Tombstone fought Bull Minotaur. Will Malice have a chance to challenge it this time? The match begins with both sides colliding fiercely. Bull Minotaur flipped over but didn't lose offense. Bull Minotaur tried to right itself. As he flipped back, Malice caught it and countered. Bull Minotaur struggled, but everything changed once he flipped back over. This round was extremely fatal for Malice. Malice's support arm was destroyed, and a piece of its spinner was knocked off, causing it to completely lose its ability to fight Bull Minotaur head-on. In direct collisions, Bull Minotaur's main weapon dealt massive damage. Malice originally had a bit of a chance, but unfortunately, it missed that critical blow. Next up is a match between Black Dragon and Sawblaze. The two sides met in the quarterfinals of Season 5, when Black Dragon was extremely fierce, ramming into Sawblaze while his own chassis was on fire. In the end, Black Dragon claimed the victory. This time, Sawblaze made it clear that it didn't want to be the backdrop for Black Dragon's highlight reel anymore. But at the start, Black Dragon took the upper hand. Early on, Sawblaze counterattacked and flipped its opponent over. This reversal was extremely critical. Black Dragon lost the wheel in the process. Black Dragon was severely shaken, his power system damaged. Sawblaze seized the momentum and launched a relentless attack, leaving Black Dragon completely stunned. At this point, Black Dragon was still trying to fight back. Anglio. This final hit finished off the opponent. Both sides exchanged fierce blows, clashing fists and kicks. 4th generation's attacks were decisive. Without hesitation, Black Dragon slipped up and was seriously injured, losing its front wheel. Next up, Witch Doctor faces off against Sawblaze. Witch Doctor has fought a total of 41 matches in their career, while Sawblaze has fought 37. Both of these machines are veteran. Coincidentally, this is actually their first ever showdown. They've never faced each other before. At the start, Sawblaze knocked off a tire, but Witch Doctor kept up a relentless assault, launching Sawblaze into the air and even knocking down Sawblaze's strong spray netting. After that, Witch Doctor continued attacking, causing Sawblaze's weapon chain to break, making it hard to move. Eventually, Sawblaze got stuck in the corner and was finished off by Witch Doctor. Sawblaze's large wheels have always been its biggest weakness. They're easily destroyed by opponents. Losing a wheel is fatal for Sawblaze, and when facing a heavily armored bot like Witch. Next up, Endgame faces off against Copperhead. As the champion of BattleBot Season 5, Endgame has already eliminated the Season 6 champion, Tantrum. Barring any surprises, Endgame has a very good chance of contending for the championship again. Bull Minotaur and the Witch Doctor are strong, but sorry they've never been champions of this show. Right at the start, Copperhead suffers a series of heavy blows. It was just like whipping a spinning top. Copperhead not only spun and took off, but just when I thought the outcome was certain, something unexpected happened. Endgame's secondary weapon stopped spinning, and Copperhead seized the opportunity to dismantle its opponent's front armor one by one. Endgame is very strong, but without its weapon and front armor, it could only take a beating. Although there was still half the match left, the outcome was already decided. At this point, Endgame was just a moving box, posing no threat at all. At the start, Copperhead suffered a series of heavy blows and the game was fierce, but it failed to finish off its opponent. Instead, its own secondary weapon malfunctioned during the collision, which ultimately led to its defeat. Such a result was truly unexpected. The champions from the previous 2 seasons were both eliminated. Early one stopped at the round of 32, the other at the round of 16. It's really hard to predict who will take the championship this time, but most likely it will be one of Minotaur, Riptide, Witch Doctor, or Hydra. Next up, we have a match between Huge and Monsoon. In the round of 16, during the 3rd season, Huge was brutally defeated and eliminated by Monsoon. Since then, Huge has been upgrading and getting stronger every year, all for the chance to get revenge today. At the start, Huge lands a hammer blow, but Monsoon's secondary weapon is massive, so when they face off head-to-head, Huge doesn't dare strike recklessly and must wait for a mistake. Jifeng was careless. Huge fought smart, never going head-to-head with your opponent. At this point, Monsoon's front fork got stuck in a floor gap, and Monsoon's slip in agility let Huge land multiple successful attacks. Plus, Monsoon's secondary weapon was prone to self-damage. Huge also had extremely strong control with its armor. In this match, Huge fought very smartly, making full use of its strengths, so the victory came easily. Next up, Hydra versus Whiplash. In the last 2 matches, Hydra fought comfortably. Both were exhibitions, and it just had to keep launching opponents. Whiplash has beaten Hydra before, and its secondary weapon can also flip opponents. At the start, Whiplash tried agile movement to outplay its opponent, but accomplished nothing. Once Hydra launches you once, it keeps happening. Whiplash lost rhythm. Afterwards, Whiplash used its agile secondary weapon to flip backward and strike its opponent, but still couldn't change the fate of being overturned. An opponent like Hydra is indeed very difficult to fight. Getting launched a few times is inevitable. All you can do is hope your robot doesn't get damaged in the falls, and then wait for Hydra to make a mistake. Unfortunately, Hydra showed no mercy. Next up, Huge faced off against Copperhead. In this match, both sides fought down to their last robot. The secondary weapon was damaged. The robot suffered severe damage, and Huge missed the chance to win. Finally, there was a crucial showdown, Riptide versus Endix, and the game made a confusing tail swing, flipping itself over. And then By the time Endgame managed to right itself, it was already heavily damaged, but it still seemed like it could keep fighting. Well, that was just an illusion. This was probably the most severe damage Endgame has ever taken. This is why it flips over in every match. That tail swing at the start was really confusing after flipping over. It could usually make a comeback, but this time it was up against Torrent, so there really wasn't any chance at all. If not for the bulletproof glass, Endgame would have flown out of the arena. Why not predict Minotaur to win the championship? It's because Torrent is too fierce. This is exactly what makes the previous 6 seasons are in this year's title. Ray Spite Force and Witch Doctor didn't compete. Tantrum and Endgame were eliminated in the round of 32 and round of 16, respectively. Season 7 of BattleBots is destined to crown a new champion. May compete for the championship, but among them, Minotaur and Torrent are the most powerful. So without further ado, let's get straight to the first match. The top-seeded Minotaur faces the 8th-seeded Huge. These two teams actually faced off once in season eliminated. It was a great chance for the championship. Now, on to the next match, Witch Doctor versus Huge. As last season's runner-up, Witch Doctor is aiming for the championship this year. Huge is the most unique robot in this tournament, and their performance has been almost miraculous. They haven't lost a match this season, and their combat power has improved significantly. At the start, both sides' main weapon, this set of low-mounted front forks, is extremely effective against the Hydra. At the start, both sides tested each other aggressively, with the 4th generation keeping distance. Shaxian wanted to attack, but the opponent's front was too long skills in a row. Niyue is also holding back, not wanting to get launched, just waiting for you to make a mistake. Soon, the opportunity arrives. More than halfway through, the 4th generation seized the opportunity with a clever offensive and scored quite a few points. The Hydra malfunctioned, and the 4th generation kept up the pressure, completely knocking the opponent out long time, and used the simplest strategy to defeat the Hydra. The Hydra team wasn't prepared for this. Although the 4th generation's front brakes limited the launches, their auxiliary weapon also posed a direct threat. But they felt that they could have played more proactively and shouldn't have been timid. Not every robot just charges at you and gets launched. In the previous 3 matches, both Minotaur and Hydra were undoubtedly eliminated, and none of the remaining 5th generation robots had ever made it to the finals. Next up was Riptide vs Copperhead. In the earlier rounds, Riptide had shown a dominant performance truly terrifying, as all his opponents were badly beaten. Copperhead, on the other hand, Copperhead defeated Riptide and advanced to the semi-finals. So now, the 4 semi-finalists are Huge, Gigabyte, Hydra, and Copperhead. Except for Huge, all the others have achieved their best results in history. I really didn't expect this outcome at all. I had predicted that the final would be between Minotaur and Riptide. Sometimes, you'll realize Huge Fire is still pretty unbeatable. Sty fought well. Semi-final, Huge Fire faced its teammate, the Copper Bandit Snake. Because of the intense battle, at the start, Huge Fire launched a quick attack. As a result, it was struck by Huge's Inferno. At this point, Huge Fire was in a tough spot, unable to find any opportunity to attack, and could only take hits passively. Oh, and I keep the upper hand. After that, Huge Fire charged forward against Fire was taking hits while pushing forward, but a few hits didn't matter as long as it could pin Huge against the wall. It would have the chance to land a series of consecutive blows. But this is turning out to being afterwards. Huge Fire fought more and more would be the champion. Huge Fire has competed since the 2nd season. Iron Armor Captain Jameson participated as a member of Overhaul in the 1st season, and from the 2nd season onward, led his own team. From being eliminated in the 1st round to that's all for my coverage of the BattleBots Season 7 elimination rounds. The Lips.